Welcome to today's episode. My name's is Bonds, James is Bonds, or 007 Reasons Why Dr. No is Better Than Live and Let Die. My name's Ian, one half of the Essential Cut podcast team, and I'm here with my co-host, Michael Smith.
Good morning, Ian.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing great.
You look great.
Oh, so do you.
Oh, that's so nice. I just got a haircut. Did you notice?
I didn't. I'm sorry.
So today's a little bit of a different episode.
Yeah, this is two departures in a row from our usual shtick.
Well, the last one was a bonus episode. This was a little bit more of a call in the moment because we usually watch two movies that share maybe like a theme or a place in the culture, and we compare them to see which one belongs on the greatest watch list of all time. And then we decide at the end of the episode which one is going to make it. But as you just heard in the title, we've already made the decision.
Yeah, this is one that did not require the Essential Cut method. We did not have to subject these movies to our very, very scientific tests.
And why was that?
Because it was very obvious in the viewing experience that Dr. No is pretty darn spectacular and belongs on our list.
Did you think that Live and Let Die had even a chance in any of our three major categories? Entertainment value, emotional impact, or like
I
cultural?
did until the moment I watched it.
So prior to it. So we took a risk because we oftentimes will watch a movie maybe that we've never seen before, but based on the Rotten Tomatoes score, we'll be like, hey, it looks good enough to make the show. Well, and in all fairness, we've scrapped an episode before where we ended up watching two movies that we felt weren't even worth
competing.
Yeah. And so
there is this like long-standing debate of like who's the best James Bond, and Roger Moore and Sean Connery are part of that conversation. So I really thought there would be something there.
I did too. I mean, there are some real Roger Moore heads out there. Now, I grew up in a Sean Connery household. I've shared it on this podcast before. My grandmother was Sean Connery's masseuse. So I've been in his office. I unfortunately never got to meet him, but I have some signed 8x10 glossies. I love me some Sean Connery. Like, there's just something special about him. But I was never like, no Roger Moore. I just was like, oh yeah, like we watched, my dad's movie was Thunderball. I know Goldfinger's the big one, but we watched Thunderball all the time. He loved that movie. I was excited to kind of like do both.
Yeah, James Bond is kind of a blind spot for me. You know, I've seen the more recent ones because I tend to see movies when they come out. And so the ones that I was alive for, I've mostly seen. But James Bond was not something that like really captured me, not something I felt a need to revisit. So I was excited to have a reason to sort of educate myself in the world of James Bond. And so I went in very open-minded, had no horse in the race, but it was not close.
Have you ever done a Pierce Brosnan Bond?
Yeah.
Okay, which one? Have you seen, like Goldeneye? Or?
I think most of them.
Oh, okay.
Not recently, but like, you know, in
Brosnan.
junior high school when they were coming out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've seen Brosnan and Craig, but you really hadn't done like more.
I played more Goldeneye than I watched Pierce Brosnan movies.
Oh my God, that game, the game was so hard. Have you ever tried to go back and replay it with the yellow buttons and the middle stick? I remember at the time thinking, I don't know how to have fun playing this. Like, I like it, but like, this is too hard.
It was like the game though for like a number of years. And so every time I was at, you know, like an after school program or a youth group or something, like that's what was being played on the N64.
Goldeneye. I had a youth group.
Yeah.
Where you're like running around shooting people in the head with a pistol.
You know, they're Protestants.
I would think that's more acceptable in Catholicism. Well, I kind of grew up on Bond. I have seen my fair share of Roger Moores as a kid. I've seen all the Connerys. I saw most of the Brosnans. Brosnan lost me. I don't remember where. Maybe like after Halle Berry. But like they just kind of got like I was pretty much just showing up for John Cleese.
Halle Berry a franchise killer? Is that?
That's a good question. I don't know. I like Halle Berry. I don't dislike her.
I know.
Don't love her. But I don't dislike her. Anyway, and then I actually showed up late to Daniel Craig because I was like, I'm over Bond. I'm over Bond. And then I didn't see a Bond until Skyfall.
Yeah, I had to revisit. Like, I didn't see Casino Royale until Skyfall was coming out as well. Yeah. And then I kind of did the homework. Okay.
Yeah, my sole criticism of Skyfall is that it is kind of a Dark Knight ripoff.
A little bit.
Yeah, but other than that,
it's a good movie.
It's a great I mean, it's for being a Dark Knight ripoff, it's a really good Dark Knight ripoff. So And then I got really into Bond again. And I'll say of the new ones, Quantum of Solace is the only one I actively don't like. I love Casino Royale. I love Skyfall. Spectre was good.
Spectre's solid, but
Spectre's
it's a
solid.
departure.
It's a departure. The opening sequence, the pre-credit sequence of Spectre is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was fun to go back and revisit as well, because I don't remember the last time I saw Dr. No, and I know I've seen Live and Let Die, but again, couldn't tell you when. So it very much was getting to sort of investigate these movies. And yeah, it was really obvious. I got about halfway into Live and Let Die, and I was like, there is just no contest here.
I was the same way. So I watched them in that order as well. I watched Live and Let Die first.
I watched Dr. No first.
I watched Live and Let Die first. And then,
well, because Dr. No was my homework. Just so everybody knows, we each have a movie that we get assigned that we have to sort of like do the
research.
Do the research and homework on. And I usually start with mine, so I have more time to work on it.
Oh, okay.
And so I watched
That's what
it.
I do too.
Yeah, and I watched it and I was like, oh, Dr. No's great. I'm so excited for Live and Let Die. And I got halfway into Live and Let Die and I was like,
yeah, see, I was blind. I was like halfway through Live and Let Die, and I was like, God, unless Dr. No has real problems, I have a feeling that one's going to win. And then I watched Dr. No, and I loved it.
Yeah, Dr. No was so good. I want to do more Connery Bond on here. Like, we don't want to go back, like keep going back to the same well, but I think in the future, we're going to have to like maybe do a Goldfinger versus like Skyfall or something.
Or maybe we just do a Connery bonus episode where we marathon these things.
Oh my gosh, turn it into a Bond podcast. I am not competing with Matt Gorley. He's already got one out there, and that guy's been podcasting for like 15 years. He's a pro.
One of the podfathers.
He is a podfather, Matt Gorley, yeah, and he has a whole Bond thing, and he knows a lot about Bond, like a weird amount about Bond.
I know very little about Bond, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes that can be better.
Well, I was going to say, what we bring is we know about movies, we know about narrative, and so it's fun to explore them from that perspective and not necessarily from like the nerd Bond. And that's how we're going to come at today's episode, is we're going to really break it down into 7 major categories.
007 major categories.
007 major categories. My apologies.
How dare you?
This was Michael's idea, so he's very proud of it.
And I have so few of them that I need to be able to like ride that wave when I get it.
You know what? Stick your flag in it. I approve. It was a good idea. I liked it. It was fun. So we broke it up into 007 categories that we'll be breaking down in today's episode. And the way it will go down is we will first talk about the man himself, James Bond. We have to talk about how Sean Connery matches up against specifically Roger Moore, but we'll kind of talk about him in the context of all of the Bonds and talk about why Connery is sort of like the monolithic iconic Bond and how he sort of kicked off who Bond is for the next several decades. Then we'll go into the Bond girl, a very important part.
Who is Bond without a Bond girl?
Every movie's got to have a Bond girl. Bond girls are so important, and some Bond girls more iconic than others. I think that we can definitely think of a few with some pretty ridiculous names, but more iconic. And so we'll talk a little bit about Honey Rider and how she fits into the overall, I guess, story of Bond and the legacy of Bond. Then, got to talk about sex.
Gotta. If we're going to talk about Bond and the Bond girls, you know, we have to talk about what they do together.
I'd be curious, and maybe I should look this up before. Is there a Bond movie where Bond doesn't get laid?
I mean, I've already said I haven't seen enough of them to give you a definitive
but you
answer.
Doubt it, right?
I feel like it wouldn't work.
Yeah, like it wouldn't be a James Bond movie if he didn't like bed a counter agent and have.
Does he bone in space? I haven't seen that one, but I know that there's a space one.
If he doesn't, that would be a huge mistake.
It'd be a waste of the low gravity situation.
Well, I think that would be really hard to get like any kind of like leverage though, or torque, right?
I don't know.
Like I rely on gravity. It's doing most of the work. Now that I'm creeping into my 40s, it's pretty much all gravity. Then we're gonna talk about location. Locations are such an important part of Bond.
They are. I mean, he's
a globetrotter.
He's a globetrotter, especially in the newer ones, the Craig movies. He's really a globetrotter.
More and more every movie, yeah.
But you know, you talk about the Bond movies. There's always like the villain's lair, like the sense of place, the setting. It really does matter.
I mean, who is Bond if he's not in an exotic location?
Yeah, I mean, he
has to be
Jason
at a Caribbean.
Bourne, I guess.
He has to be at a Caribbean bar somewhere taking a shot at tequila, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I know he drinks martinis, but he also just drinks. He's a drinker.
He's a drinker.
He's a drinker.
Bond just likes to have a good time.
He's not a teetotaler.
No.
After that, we'll talk about the action. Action in early movies, especially, is a lot different than what we're used to now. We have these huge set pieces, but Bond action has evolved over the years. He very much was a spy in the earlier movies,
He
not
was
as
a
much of a soldier.
spy. There was more hand to hand. There, action was just harder to do in the 1960s than it is now, and so they had to get creative, and it's definitely worth chatting about.
Mm-hmm. Then we'll talk about the threat of violence. This is an important part of Bond movies as well, because as we know, Bond's been around for 60 plus years, which means that he doesn't die.
He doesn't die.
So we have to feel that he's at risk.
Yes, and I do love that we are making the distinction between violence and the threat of violence. I think in Dr. No especially, just the looming threat, the underlying danger is a big part of the movie.
It is. And I think that breaking it up that way you just said, threat of violence versus violence, also is like, we're not anti-violence on this podcast. We're not going to condemn a movie for having a lot of violence. Although I will say Live and Let Die is a much more violent movie in a way that kind of feels weird.
Yeah, I think we've discussed in past episodes that we're not anti-violence, but we want the violence to matter.
Yeah, it has to be meaningful in some way. Or at the very least, it has to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah. And then finally, have to always talk about the Bond villain.
Yes.
And this is the titular villain of the movie. He gets it named after him, which is great. But he's also the very first Bond villain, Dr. No. And so he also sets a pretty important legacy for future Bond villains. And we'll talk about what Wiseman does to create this iconic, archetypal villain that we see repeated, not just in future Bond movies, but
kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
In our Superman episode, we talked about like the technocratic villain.
Yes.
And how, at least for Superman 3 like really kind of laid that groundwork. But I think there's some influence from Dr. No there too.
I think there might be. And so I'm excited to get into this. I'm excited to break format a little bit. So if you can see the board up here, we're just cutting Live and Let Die. We're putting all of our eggs in the Dr. No basket. And we're going to just do a deep dive into Dr. No today. So that being said, let's get to work.
Let's do it.
Carte. 9 à la banque.
I need another 1,000.
I admire your courage, Miss...
Trench. Sylvia Trench. I admire your luck, Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
Mr. Bond, I suppose you wouldn't care to, raise the limit?
I have no objections.
C'est pas possible, madame. C'est illégal, monsieur.
No.
C'est suivi, monsieur.
Looks like you're out to get me.
It's an idea at that. 8.
8 à la ponte. 9 à la banque.
Excuse me, please. Thank you. Andre, I must pass.
I don't think it's a hot take to say that Sean Connery is just a phenomenal Bond and that this first introduction to him in Dr. No is an iconic moment in film. But like, this is where I really want to stop and talk about like the future of Bond and like, how do we capture that kind of moment again where it feels that fresh and that exciting when you meet Bond? Because this is just such a great moment to meet a character that's now, he's going to be with us for the next 6, 7, 8, 9 decades.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful introduction to him.
Everyone is familiar with Bond. Everyone knows the line Bond, James Bond. And without
Shaken, not stirred.
Shaken, not stirred. And we wouldn't have that if the first introduction didn't create this character that sort of immediately felt iconic. It was really interesting watching this movie for the first time, knowing it is the first Bond, and so much of what we think about Bond is right there from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And had they fumbled it, I don't know that we'd have, 23 movies at this point, 5 different James Bonds, and these things that carry over from Bond to Bond to Bond, they last that test of time. They are really, what's the word I'm looking for?
Monolithic.
That's a good one.
Like there isn't another character that's appeared on film before Connery inhabited Bond that I think brings this sort of suave demeanor, but also a little bit of sloppiness, but also charm.
Mhm.
But he's a bit of a drunk. And like there have been so many different parodies on this type of character of like how much more of a drunk do we want to make him? How much more of a sex offender do we want to make him?
Right.
But Connery manages to actually walk perfectly down this line of being all of those things. He embodies Archer, he embodies Austin Powers, he embodies oh my god, which I forget what James Coburn's send up is called, but he embodies all of them, but he does it in a way that like you like this guy and you want to spend the next 60, 70, 80 years with this character
Right.
and on his adventures. And it is absolutely remarkable. But I got to ask you, what is it about Connery's Bond for you that like really sticks? Like, what is it about this performance, this Bond, where you're like, yes, because this is not a normal episode today, and there's a reason why.
Yeah, what sticks for me is the like multiple dimensions of the character and how he's able to nail each of them. And I don't want to slam Roger Moore again and again here.
It's
But-
not what we're here to do, but there is a clear distinction between these
People
interpretations.
say that Sean Connery is the best Bond, and initially my interpretation of that was like people get nostalgic, they always like the original most, but there's a difference between being just the original and then being definitive.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes Sean Connery's Bond so definitive is that he is a badass, but he also does it with just a little bit of a sly grin, and it's present no matter what he's doing, whether it's a scene that is leaning more into the fun or more into the serious, like spy action hero. There's an element of that personality that's at least consistent throughout all of it, and Connery strikes that balance really well.
I agree. I think his performance strikes that balance phenomenally well. I'm glad you bring up that sort of sly grin because there is just a smirk in everything that he does. And it's not a sarcastic smirk.
No.
It's a confident smirk of like, I got this.
Mhm.
Like whatever this is, I got it. And there's this sort of like male confidence machismo that comes with that is uniquely, I'll say uniquely Scottish
Mm.
that he delivers in a space that I don't think when they say like, why can't we ever have an American Bond? I don't know that an American actor could ever capture quite that type of like smug, likable thing. But the other thing that for me, Connery, is his physical presence.
Yes.
He has this like lithe, like tawny physique. He's sexy as hell.
Yeah,
Like
because he is.
he looks so good.
I
in this
can't think
movie.
of a better word than like you look at him and there's just like he's tight, right? Like,
Like a tiger.
kinda, yeah. And he's not like conventionally the most like he's not a model, right? They tried that later on with Bond, right?
Yeah.
Because I think like the CIA guy in Dr. No is the more conventionally attractive.
Felix Leiter always
Yeah.
reappearing. He's played by Jeffrey Wright in the newer ones, but it's
Yeah.
funny how Felix is always there. And this is where that loyalty, the book and the story is so
Mhm.
important, is that there are characters that are just like they are staples of the Bond story.
Mhm.
But what I love, and again, this being the very first one, is like you watch this movie and it's like we know this now, but they're inventing this in the moment.
Yeah.
They're making these characters into these things. And so yeah, Felix Leiter is more the agent you expect to encounter.
Mhm.
And part of me, it's funny. The first time I ever watched Dr. No, I remember feeling bad for Felix Leiter. I'm like, man, he has to work with this drunk. Like,
Yeah.
what a pain in the ass. But watching it now, all these years later, and I'm like, no, Bond's not a pain in the ass. Like, Bond is a pain in the ass, but he's so effective that you're like,
Yeah.
you're willing to forgive his sort of nonsense because he's great at what he does.
Yeah, because despite being kind of a drunk and a rogue, he's also very smooth, right? He's quiet when he needs to be quiet. He seems to be very perceptive of what's going on around him. I believe that even in the clumsy moments, he is looking around corners. He is a little bit of a step ahead of everyone else around him. He doesn't always make the perfect decisions as a result of that, but I don't think that he is a bull in a china shop. He's not just running through the threat. He does execute some kind of plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really great because it makes him a good contrast to whatever the villain is, right? You know, our villains in movies and Bond movies are often these like geniuses. They have a plan. They're trying to, you know, take over the world or whatever it is they're doing. And Bond also isn't just going in there and shooting everyone. He is there and he's smart and he's executing a plan, and he's not brawny, but you know that like when it's time for him to flip the switch, he will do what it takes to win. And I think Connery's Bond balances that really, really well. And then back to kind of that sly grin, he is fun without being silly.
Yeah, he never fully slides into camp the way that keep your feet on your side of the desk. We got space. We got space. He never slides into camp. Like he has a smirk, but I think like his particular take on Bond, and again, you know, he's inventing this character in the moment. He's not. He sort of has that freedom to make him, but it's also a little bit scary because you're out on a cliff. You're not reacting to a prior Bond. You are taking the books. You're working with the director in this case, and you are inventing him. And there are scenes in here where I'm like, this is such a unique take on, to your point, this type of character. So, you know, going with that introduction, like he meets Trench, right? He is supposed to go help a fallen comrade, but he stays and gets laid instead. You should not like that character. Like, you should have a problem with his decision-making process in that moment.
Like,
because
dude, you're going to miss your plane.
You're going to miss your plane. But like, this is a colleague of yours that was murdered, presumably. I mean, he's vanished off the face of the earth in Jamaica, and his secretary has vanished. So it's fair to assume that they've been assassinated at this juncture. And yet he pauses for like a quick bit of the old in and out.
Yeah.
With someone he just met at the Baccarat table.
Right.
But the way Connery finds a way to thread that needle and remain endearing and remain charming, and it is this sort of like this machismo, this confidence that he carries, because you know that he'll make the plane.
Yeah.
Like he delivers his performance in a way that he knows he'll make the plane. You know he'll make the plane. There's no question about it that he can. This is the guy that can have it all. He can do both, and he can always do both.
Yeah.
And that's how you're introduced to him, is that this is going to always be a character that can do both.
The other thing I really love about Connery's Bond is that Connery's Bond is a spy, right? I think we sometimes lose that, where
I think it's gotten lost very much actually in the Daniel Craig interpretation. And I really love the Daniel Craig movies.
I do too, but
he's so much more of a soldier.
Yes, exactly. He's a cop, not a soldier. He's a spy.
Yeah.
There's an investigative element of what he's doing. And I really love that, like you said, he stops to get laid, and you think like, oh, he's, you know, putting the mission at risk, but there's something about the way he carries himself that we believe that he could balance it. I think the same is true with the way he approaches sort of the underlying mystery, in that he's able to both investigate and try to figure out what's going on, and he honors the mystery. He doesn't just throw a grenade into it.
There's an intentionality to everything that he does, and the way he approaches mystery, whether he's entering into his hotel room and looking for bugs, the way because he has that whole scene where he, like, you know, lays the hair across the door and checks on his briefcase, and he is very serious about what he does, but he still will put off catching his plane for sex.
Right.
And a cocktail. And I mean, the guy's drinking all day, but never gets drunk. And this is, again, part of like the Bond charm. And I think to juxtapose a little bit of this off of Roger Moore's Bond, because Roger Moore comes in after they attempt, what was it? Was it Lazenby that came in between the two, I think?
What's it between the two? I can't.
I believe so. But yeah, they had cast, when Connery said he was done with it, they had cast someone else to come in as Bond, and he was a model, not an actor. It's kind of a forgotten Bond. And then this is when Moore steps in, and Moore, there are a lot of Moore lovers out there. I really didn't have an opinion until we actually sat down and watched both of these movies, but like, Moore doesn't have that confidence. His almost feels like bravado. It almost feels like it's like
It's put on.
He's bloviating, like he's
Yeah.
not really going to be able to accomplish what he says he will. And it sort of like falls into his lap. And it's not because of his control over the situation. It's more just because like he's Bond and things will happen. But he doesn't have the kind of command over the scene. He doesn't have the kind of command over the characters around him that I think Connery does. There's something about Connery's presence.
The things that feel like a delicate balancing act with Connery feel like inconsistencies with Moore.
Yes. So on the topic of command, let's go into the next, maybe most important thing in any Bond movie, the Bond girl.
The Bond girl.
Underneath the mango tree, make Kulu look so. La da da dee da da dee, honey and me.
Underneath the mango tree, my honey and me.
Who is that?
It's all right. I'm not supposed to be here either. I take it you're not. Are you alone?
What are you doing here? Looking for shells?
No, I'm just looking.
Stay where you are.
I promise I won't steal your shells.
I promise you won't either. Stay where you are.
I can assure you my intentions are strictly honorable.
I do love that they call out in the very first movie that the Bond girl is going to have a funny name. Bond recognizes that she has a funny name and she somehow is unaware. But Ursula Andress as a Bond girl, and I am going to put her up against Jane Seymour because I do think that there's an important contrast here that I want to highlight.
Very important if it's the one I think you're going to.
I don't know. I don't know what your feeling on it is, but like Ursula Andress's Honey Rider is so self-possessed. She does not need Bond.
Yep.
She is there. She knows that there's danger on this island. She's been coming to this island for ages. Her father was lost on this island, but she is so confident. She is so strong. Like there is not an unequal relationship between her and Bond. And that's something I really adore about her as a Bond girl and how they set this up versus Solitaire is basically the property of Mr. Big.
Right.
Before she becomes the property of Bond.
Exactly. Honey Rider.
And it's weirdly that it's so regressive because it moves forward in time, and yet Ursula Andress's character, to my mind, is actually a better representative
really
of
strong.
feminine
She
strength.
has agency. She, when he's like, "I won't steal your shells," and she says, "You won't."
Yeah, because
right?
I have a knife and I will gut you like a fish.
And Solitaire, I think, is a good character. Like she's interesting. I think she is sympathetic. You root for that character. But like you said, she goes from being the property of one man to the property of another man. Her power is completely taken from her via sex, right? So she has a sexiness, but instead of using that to advance her interests, if she submits to it, it actually takes her agency away. Whereas Ursula Andress's character, Honey Rider, yeah, she shows up and her introduction is coming out of the ocean in a white bikini, but then we immediately are told that she's a badass.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it such a better character. And it also removes a lot of what we think of as kind of the problematic approaches to the Bond girl.
I don't know if it fully removes it. I think
It doesn't
that
remove
may be,
it,
I
it
was like, that may
softens
be-
it.
Yeah, I was like, that may be an overstatement. But what I will say is, you say we're immediately told that she's a badass, but actually think about it. We know the minute we meet her because the entire island is terrified of this island. They won't go to it because they believe there's a dragon. They believe it's a curse. They believe something will happen. We meet her on this island by herself. So she's either careless or more likely she's brave and doesn't believe all of the nonsense mythology, which makes her such a great
does, right? Like
the moment
she
shows
says
up on
she's
screen.
seen the dragon.
Sure.
But it doesn't deter her.
Yeah, but she calls it a dragon. But I think that she also there is a part of me that does not believe that she thinks it's a dragon. She understands that is the common way to refer to the thing that is on the island. Because, well, I mean, in all fairness, what do you call that thing?
Yeah.
I don't know what to call it. The flame blowing tank. I actually think dragon may be the appropriate way. But I think more importantly though, like if she actually believed that you would disappear by going to this island, she wouldn't be there. So the moment she appears on screen, she already has more strength and more power. than many of the other characters you've even met in the movie, let
Yeah.
alone comparing her up against Solitaire. And so this is one of the reasons I absolutely adore her in this. I also love, speaking of her being property, the movie ends with like the strong suggestion that they're going to bang on that boat.
It's not a suggestion.
No, it's not. He doesn't own her then either.
No.
This is two adults who met on an adventure, and now, we know, we've talked about this in episode ages ago, that Indiana Jones really was Steven Spielberg's like American James Bond. He wanted a James Bond movie. They were never going to let him, so he made his own. And I believe that he's watching these versions of James Bond because setting him up with this really strong woman where it is more of a game and this relationship that has much more equal footing.
He can't control her.
No, he's not going to control Honey Rider at all. I think she's such a great archetype for the Bond girl. And I say this is why it doesn't solve the issues, because merely calling her the Bond girl is it's still kind of sexist because like he's not the Honey Rider guy.
No, but it's also a Bond movie, not a Honey Rider movie.
No, it's not. But I think for some people it is.
And I don't think it should be lost that like she's on that island, in an entrepreneurial pursuit, right? So she's creating a life for herself. She's collecting these shells so that she can sell the shells. She's doing so in sort of a quasi black market. So there's a risk there that she's undertaking, and she's spending that money so that she can educate herself to build a life for herself. This is a character that knows who she is, knows what she wants, and is willing to take risk to get it in a way that male characters do.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, she is a fantastic character. I enjoy her so much in this. It's funny because Goldfinger always tends to sort of like overshadow all of the Connery Bonds, and I forget about Ursula Andress until I watch Trainspotting and I hear them talking about her in it. But she is such a great Bond girl, and again, setting up a great archetype for what that can be going forward. And I think some of the best Bond girls in history have been the ones that are very self-possessed, that do have that agency. And so, as we look forward to Bond, I hope that we get to continue to see those types of characters. So yeah. All right. Are you ready to move on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the next place we should go if we're talking about Bond and then the Bond girls is how they interact with one another in the sexy way.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Yeah, that's a naughty little habit. Listening at keyholes.
I wasn't listening. I was looking for those files. Anything that can't be found, I get the blame.
Oh, forget it. I'm sure it's not very important anyhow. I just hate to think you're going to spend the whole afternoon looking for these things.
No, I have the afternoon off.
Well, there's a coincidence. So have I. Why don't you show me around the island?
What should I say to an invitation from a strange gentleman?
You should say yes.
I should say maybe.
3 o'clock at my hotel. Maybe?
Yes, maybe.
Good.
This is again where I actually do want to compare really directly against Live and Let Die, because Bond will always have multiple sexual conquests. There will be the Bond girl, but then there will be the sort of the moments lead up to him meeting the Bond girl. And her this is Miss Taro, right?
Yes.
Okay. They are playing a very clear game. Like she is a counterintelligence agent that is working inside of an MI office.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Or MI6's. Yeah. MI6 office. And I think that that's important because she is attempting to get information from him through sex. He is attempting to get information through her through sex. This is not the type of relationship that we see occur in Live and Let Die, which I'll be honest, that's probably where the movie lost me, because I was like, that's a rape scene. It basically is when he gets involved with the counterintelligence agent, whose name is actually now eluding me in Live and Let Die. But it, notwithstanding, she doesn't want to have anything to do with him. She's not attempting to get information from him. She's trying to direct him in a way, and he ultimately just kind of like guilts her / threatens her, creates a very unsafe environment in which she ends up having sex, which makes Roger Moore's character so much less sexy.
Right, because there's an element of him not letting her leave.
Yes,
in Live
that's
and Let
exactly
Die.
right. She says no, and he doesn't let her leave.
Whereas this...
And then they get shot up, and she's scared, and he takes advantage of her fear.
Yeah, whereas here, there is a game that they are both playing and they are both aware that they're playing the game, and they both score points in that game.
That is exactly right. He wins the game because
Yeah.
he's James Bond. And again, it's a Bond movie. Like,
Yeah.
he has to win the game. But there, again, is a more equal balance between the sexes in this. Like, she is spying. She is gaining information through her position. And
she's using her femininity in a deliberate way, right? I don't think it's a coincidence that her cover is as a secretary.
Absolutely
Right?
not. I mean, she's using her femininity in the way he's using his masculinity. That's actually what I like about this, is that it is a feminine versus masculine moment in who can win this. And, she's attempting to basically get him killed by bringing him in, but also gaining information from him. And she is playing weird games and giving him crazy directions and being flirtatious without being like overly forthcoming. And it makes for the sort of sex play between him and her just a more interesting, more layered, and I mean, we're going to keep saying this, which again is crazy for a movie that was made in the 60s, a more respectful attempt at the honeypot setup.
And I also think if we then jump to the main Bond girls and the way he interacts with Ursula Andress's Honey Rider versus Jane Seymour's Solitaire, Bond pursues her, and she is part of his spycraft, right? Like, it's not purely self-serving. It's self-serving, but it's part of a bigger picture. And he also takes her along for the ride. She ends up being a partner in what he's accomplishing. Whereas his relationship with Solitaire feels very much like he just wants to get laid. He's willing to use her in a more cynical way.
It feels like he wants to take something away from Mr. Big. It has more to do with like, oh, that's yours. Watch me take it away from you and how that makes you feel. It's more about a relationship between him and Big than it is between him and Solitaire.
And
Solitaire is, I mean, it's funny. Solitaire is literally a pawn on the board.
Yeah.
Whereas Honey's not a pawn on the board.
And she is hurt by his sexual pursuit in a very real way that Honey Rider is not.
And I mean, we're still talking Bond girls, but I think that's important as we dip into sex. But like when Solitaire ultimately gives into Roger Moore's Bond's advances, and maybe this
through trickery. That's another one that feels like a sexual assault, not a flirtatious game.
I was just gonna say, so this could be Jane Seymour's performance. I think a lot of it is actually the direction of the movie, but like she seems unwilling. Like she has to give into the cards rather than she's excited to give into the cards. And that lack of excitement of wanting to bed Bond makes it feel like a sexual assault.
Right.
And
it lacks intimacy.
But it's not sexy. Like it just isn't.
It's gross.
It's uncomfortable. It's gross. It makes Bond into somebody that I do not want to be. And Bond is supposed to be like the ultimate like male icon of like, he can do it all. He can drink all morning and still win the fight and still get the girl and still save the world. And when you see him use trickery with cards to trick somebody who is very superstitious into sleeping with him, it feels like the Sandlot. Like, it's like, oh, I tricked that girl into kissing me. Look what I did. Except in this case, it's a sexual assault for a girl that's basically a sex slave already.
Right. And Bond has an inherent dangerousness to him, right? And in Dr. No, that's always present and the girls are aware of it, right? Yes, he's seducing them, but there's a threat of him being able to turn on them.
I think maybe Trench, his first conquest, maybe doesn't have that, but I'd say Taro and Honey absolutely no.
Right? But the girls are aware of that, and they possess it too. Whereas in Live and Let Die, Bond has to hide that aspect of him. He has to make himself seem harmless and fun, and he sort of sells something that he's not going to deliver on in the relationship. Whereas I don't think Honey Rider is ever fooled into thinking that their dynamic is anything more than it is.
I don't think so either. I think he is as forthcoming as he can and should be with Honey in order to like build that relationship. And I think that he is not forthcoming with Taro in the way that she is with him,
And I
in
think
a way to play out that sexual game.
if Honey decides to say, fuck you, I'm not in this anymore, she can.
I mean,
Solitaire can't.
but what's more likely is that they're going to fuck around for the weekend and he's going to fly back to England and they're never going to see each other again. Great.
And she's fine with that.
Yeah, there's no reason that she wouldn't be. Like,
Yeah.
he's not part of her, like, plans for her life, and she does not rely on him. Solitaire has at the end of Live and Let Die, Solitaire has nothing without Bond.
Right.
And that's not okay.
Yeah, and we're almost supposed to find that romantic in some way. Like, we're supposed to be rooting for them as a couple.
But it just gives me the ick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on now. So we have worked through Bond and his many conquests. Let's talk about location. Location.
Jamaica went off the air tonight, just like that. Right in the middle of the opening procedure. We've checked up and Strangways has disappeared. So's his secretary. She was a new girl, we'd only just sent her out there.
Or was Strangways on something special?
Well, he was checking an inquiry from the Americans. They've been complaining about massive interference with their Cape Canaveral rockets. They think it comes from the Jamaica area.
This is a place where I actually want to even venture a little bit outside of Live and Let Die as we talk about location, because location is one of the reasons that making a Bond movie now is so fucking hard.
Yeah.
Because they have to go to South Africa and they have to go to New Zealand and they have to go to Italy and they have to go to England. And these shoots take 9 months. That's why Daniel Craig, every time he finished one, was like, I'm never doing this again. Put another zero on the check. Otherwise, I'm not coming back because this is taking over my entire life. And what I love about Dr. No is, yes, it is a story about world domination. And we'll get into that as we get into our villain, which obviously got to save the best for the last because Dr. No. But it actually keeps the story pretty damn small.
Mm-hmm.
You start in Jamaica. You go to England to meet Bond. You come back to Jamaica. There's a small island off of Jamaica.
Yeah.
Those are your locations.
Yeah.
And
You go from an island to a smaller island.
yeah, which you probably could have shot all on the same island and nobody would have known the difference. And that's fine. And it makes the production more doable, but it's also, I like the movie like that. There are times where I watch newer Bonds, even the Daniel Craig ones I like, where it feels like they're just checking boxes.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to get them out to Milan now. Okay, cool. Now we're racing cars through Milan.
Yeah.
This is fun. I like it, but why do we have to have this scene?
Because in Dr. No, Jamaica and then Crab Key are more than scenery. They matter, right? You feel the claustrophobia. You feel the danger and the mystery of Crab Key.
There's one small dirt road that takes him out to Taro. There's one small dirt road that brings him out to the docks where he meets up with Coral, right? There's one club where his associate was taken, and all of it has there's this really strong sense of location
and interconnectivity between what his colleague experienced, and now he is able to retrace those steps because there are only so many steps available to you.
And there's an economy to all of it where you can feel Dr. No's presence in all of it, where his shadow looms large over this entire community in a way that when you are absolutely traveling the world and globetrotting, that it's more difficult to feel that kind of presence.
Right, because when we talk about world domination is a big concept that's hard to wrap your head around. But then when you distill it down into, okay, he wants to dominate the world, and I believe that he can do that because he has dominated this part of it.
You know what? That is such a great way of describing that. He has illustrated that he is able to psychologically and through force dominate to the point where he has scared an entire community of people into staying away from his island. So we believe that he just has to now scale that up.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if we're going to talk about Live and Let Die, it just feels like a cheap copy of what they did in Dr. No.
Felt like they were trying to recapture a lot of Dr. No.
They didn't put it on an island. It's not a real island, which I think hurts it. I think the fact that, is it Martinique or something like that? But
they go to my nose, but yeah.
It's a fictional place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that hurts it. I think I know of Jamaica. We're familiar with Jamaica. And the fact that that's been able to be taken over and that we get this sense of place, it feels more real. The stakes feel higher. You can't just replicate that and throw a different name on it
Well,
and then make it more cartoonish.
It's not even just that it's more real, but I think something that I think you're kind of circling, and maybe this is what you're trying to get to, is that like Jamaica and England have history.
Yes.
And because they have history,
There actually is, a thread of like colonialism through the movie that goes unspoken but matters.
absolutely. And because it's a real place and because there's real history, you can leave it unspoken, but you can feel that club and those three blind men and the docks, like you feel this sort of like these various levels of like the stratosphere of like where people live and how people occupy the space. And yeah, maybe England doesn't own it anymore, but they still have an enormous amount of power over it. And maybe this is why Dr. No's interested in it and like taking it away, because he has a grudge against the West for not having appreciated his genius. All of those things are at play without ever having to actually say them, by putting it someplace that is very real, that has a very real history. And that's missing from Live and Let Die. And it's diluted by having so many locations in all of the other movies, because the locations become more about, we just did a special episode on the movies of this year, and we talked about The Devil Wears Prada 2. It's a bunch of sexy locations. We love it. It's fun to go there. But it also kind of dilutes the core message and story of the movie by taking us to all these fun, sexy locations without having that really strong cultural context that this movie has. I love this movie.
I do too. And, this is a silly aside, but to speak to sort of the realism of Jamaica versus the artificiality that we experience in Live and Let Die, like I had a moment watching Live and Let Die where I was like, why are there both crocodiles and alligators on this island? And
I didn't catch that. But then you also have it taking place in real places like New York and Louisiana and New Orleans and places like that. And so I don't know. Live and Let Die is such an odd turn, and it's interesting that Roger Moore's like Bond lived on as long as he did. Maybe we'll have to watch another Roger Moore and see if it evolved into something that was better. But not that I necessarily put that much credence in this. But the Rotten Tomato scores don't bode well.
Yeah. I mean, we have our own issues with Rotten Tomatoes scores, but it does give you an idea of,
and that they don't take into account our reviews.
Yes, exactly. If this was the high watermark for what Roger Moore had to offer, and it sort of went down from there, I just don't think it does a great job of honoring the best elements of Bond and what Bond has to offer. Whereas Dr. No, it's the first outing and is able to like lay this timeless groundwork.
Agreed. All right. So we love the location. Let's talk about the action, Michael. We don't have a sound clip for this. I don't really know how to do it.
I don't know how you do sound for action.
I'll play some boat racing.
And some explosions.
Explosions. But what did you think of the action of Dr. No? Because I think that is one thing that probably feels the most dated about this movie. We are used to very big action set pieces at this point. I'll keep going to Daniel Craig, but like when he crashes that motorcycle into the edge of the bridge, flips it over at the beginning of Skyfall, and continues chasing that guy, that shit's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so good because the guy who's being chased is like, fuck, I have the wrong guy on my tail.
Yeah, I have a split opinion on this, which is Live and Let Die definitely has the bigger, more spectacular action set pieces.
The boat chase is fun.
The boat chase is super fun.
Love the boat chase.
However, I think, again, there is something about the economy of scale in Dr. No, where because we are made very aware that we're on an island, things like car chases feel more threatening because there's
I love the car chase in Dr. No.
Not very many places to go to escape. You have, the hand-to-hand combat scenes are silly in both, but I actually think the choreography in Dr. No is done better. You get one big explosion at the end. You feel more of it. Whereas in Live and Let Die, that boat chase is so good. I have really no notes on the boat chase.
I have a couple notes.
I really enjoy watching that. But then you have other things where it's like he's trying to escape from the gators / crocodiles, and he's literally like skipping over alligators like they're stones in the water. And yeah, that's a fun set piece, but I don't know what it does to create an atmosphere.
Well, I think so I'm glad you actually brought up both, because I think in both instances, the boat chase scene and the alligator scene, they're fun to watch. But what they fail to do that I think the action in Dr. No does do, and we're just going to keep loving on Dr. No, is that they fail to establish that James Bond is more clever than his enemies.
Yes.
The boat chase is just a big boat chase. He doesn't do something that makes him win the boat chase and makes him really clever. In fact,
It could be in any movie with any character.
when he finally defeats the enemy in the boat chase, they actually have to rely on something that is like really difficult to believe actually what happened. And the way it's directed and delivered, it actually breaks the magic of the boat chase in order to end it. Whereas the car chase in Dr. No, you're not, I mean, you know it's a Bond movie, you know he's going to make it right, but you're not convinced that it's going to go great.
Well, and he takes these like risks that you don't necessarily understand in the moment, but they're part of something bigger.
And they result in showing that he has outsmarted the people that are chasing him. And the same thing with when his driver, there's sort of a car chase at the beginning when he first arrives on the island where his driver is driving and he's in the back, which I actually love that he doesn't have the control.
That's actually, between the two car chases, that's my favorite one.
Oh, you like that one better?
I do.
I do like that one better, but I like the way that one sort of wraps up because he knows what's happening. And again, this is a moment where like Bond is smarter than what's going on around him. He knows he's able to put the pieces together so rapidly. And the reason he's able to overcome these situations is not because of his physical prowess, though he has it, but it is because he's a good spy and he knows what's happening and he's watching his surroundings and he has, incredible situational awareness. And it's illustrated through the action that I think doesn't happen in the boat chase scene.
And that's why in Live and Let Die, you get arguably better set pieces, but the action that exists in Dr. No serves the story and the characters in a way that feels more connected and grounded.
Absolutely. And the action, sorry, I'll even cut to when they're out on Dr. No's island and they all hide with the tubes in their mouths and sit in the shade where they can't be seen. Like, that's opposite action. It's like the anti-action. They have to hide from the enemy, but they're able to accomplish that because he's smart. Because he figures out with what's around that he can do this and keep everyone safe. And this is like what makes Connery's Bond just really, really a stronger Bond. He's so clever. All right. Let's start getting into the baddies. That's baddies. So we're going to talk about the threat of violence.
Why have you disobeyed my strictest rule and come in daylight?
I had to. Bond came to see me this morning.
Yes, I know. I gave orders that he should be killed. Why is he still alive?
Our attempts failed.
Your attempts failed. I do not like failure. You are not going to fail me again, Professor.
No. I came to warn you.
Warn me.
Tell you. Bond has discovered those rock samples of Strangways came from Crab Key. He's not a fool. He's sure to come out here.
I hope not. If he does, I shall hold you responsible. I make myself clear.
Yes, quite clear.
Go to the table. You see what is in the cage. Pick it up. Pick it up. Tonight.
This is the scene in which Dr. No gives Strangway the spider that he's supposed to release into Bond's room. And it gives us this sense of what Bond is up against.
Yeah.
Which up until this point, he's been up against sort of like thugs that are, whether it's car chases or, whatever, right? But like, this is when it gets like full on Bond villainy, where it's like, we're going to release a poisonous spider in his room. And I got to ask, like, does this work for you? Like, do you feel that this is like a strong threat of violence where like you feel, because it's important that Bond has a strong threat of violence as a character because he has to always win. So we have to feel that there is sort of impending danger all the time.
I love this scene because it illustrates a couple of things. One, I like that he's a disembodied voice.
I love that he's a disembodied voice. And he does such a great job with his voice.
An air of mystery. There's just a couple of little things that are implied where, the sort of henchman says, our mistakes. And he's like, no, it's your mistake. I'll hold you responsible. We know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the cage, right? It's the poisonous spider in the cage. He says, "Look at what's in the cage. Do it tonight." That's it. That's all of the explanation. And we know that the threat is there without it being explicit. And I really love that because you have a character who, without Dr. No saying what he's going to do, knows that it's bad and that the threat is real and that he will follow through on the threat. You have someone who is smart, who is playing a game, who is imposing his threat in ways that are not just blowing stuff up and shooting people.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier on, when Bond first arrives in Jamaica and he gets picked up by a chauffeur, he's able to just sense something's off. I don't think this chauffeur is who he says he is. In order for the threat of violence to be a threat, it really works best if there's mystery to it. And I think Dr. No does that very well.
I agree. I think that, all of the points that you illustrated show that there is this sort of just like looming threat over the island, and
well, and people are afraid of Crab Key, but they don't know why exactly.
But that threat becomes focused onto Bond. But the other thing you mentioned, that it's a disembodied voice. Like, it's super fun that it's a disembodied voice. But bear in mind, he's talking to Strangway. Strangway presumably is pretty high up.
Strangway's the dead MI6 agent. This guy's doctor.
That's right. Strangway. Yeah, Strangway is the associate. This is the doctor. Apologies. Yeah. So he's talking to somebody though who is a counterintelligence agent working for him against MI6, who is also like a PhD and a doctor. He is high up in the organization, and he's not allowed to see Dr. No's face.
Right.
And he's treated like a minion, and he's scared of No in this moment. So like, these are both very smart men. But there is this power dynamic in which No is just lording over this character.
Yeah.
Even though this character actually potentially has like some political leverage over No, which makes it that much more threatening, because you're like, okay, what is it?
Yeah.
What is it that doesn't allow him to see his face? What is it that makes him that scared that he's willing to take on this risk? And we didn't talk about this earlier, but this is actually one of my favorite scenes, is when Bond counts bullets. Because Bond fucking kills counting bullets. It completely gets fucked up in Live and Let Die. Bond comes out with a 6-shooter and fires like 18 bullets out of the damn thing. Whereas this doctor comes in and fires into the bed, and Bond's like, go ahead and reach for your gun. There's nothing in it. Like, because he counted shots. And I'm like, dude, Bond is so smart. We love Bond.
He's smart. And that also makes the threat of violence from Bond feel more real too. Because again, he's a step ahead. He understands what's going on around him. And in that moment, he ends up shooting what is essentially an unarmed man, right? And so there is an edge to it. There's a danger to it. He's not pure.
Oh, he's a little bit of a sociopath. Going back to the car chase, I mean, he's chased by a hearse. They drive off the cliff, roll over in a fire explosion, and he says something about them being on their way to a funeral. To a couple of strangers, construction workers. Well, let's be clear. This is a small island. They could be related.
Right.
Bond is kind of a bad dude, which, I mean, he's killing bad dudes, but he's not a good guy. He's our hero, but he's not a good guy.
Yeah. The other thing I really like in terms of the threat of violence, or just the way the violence plays, is contrasting the two climaxes. They both take place in a lair with water, like artificial bodies of water.
Yes.
And in one, in Live and Let Die, it's like sharks. Like, it's water and it's sharks, and we're going to put you in there and you're going to get eaten by sharks. Okay.
Sure.
It's very
if they're hungry.
Right? Whereas in Dr. No, this place has a nuclear reactor that is both powering the island and being set up to be used as a weapon. And the threat is, we have this nuclear power that can get out of hand or harnessed, and the water starts boiling, right?
Yeah, superheating the water from cooling, the uranium, presumably, which is also, I'm like, everybody in that room's dead, but
yeah,
but
that
it's also the 60s.
Is so much better. Like, that is such a better threat because it is a little more grounded, right? Like, feeding you to sharks just feels crazy. Whereas this water is meant to control, but then it becomes a threat when it is out of control.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
It's playing on more layers. Like, why would you have a pool full of sharks except for to feed Bond to them? Like, that's
Right.
the only reason for that villain to actually own that. Whereas what No is doing is connected to his greater aspirations,
Yeah.
and then it becomes the threat in that moment because, to your point, it's now gotten out of control, and it's gotten out of control because of Bond.
Yeah, and Bond is forced to use his brain a little bit, and then let's not even talk about the fact that like Dr. No meets his demise via his tool that's being used for his master plan,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the villain in Live and Let Die, you know, is forced to swallow, compressed air and then blows up like a balloon.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping we wouldn't talk about that, but sure, that is how he
Yeah, so
meets his demise.
but there's no threat there. It happens quickly. It's silly. The tension is undermined.
I actually didn't even understand it.
Yeah.
Like, there seemed to be something that inflated things. I didn't understand how that functioned. And this is like sort of the like we have our Craig Bond, which is like the hyper grounded Nolan Bond. Even Nolan didn't direct it, but like we know like that's what that is, right?
Yeah.
And then we have our Connery Bond, who's like fun, but it's not outside the realm of reality of what's happening. Like it's and then like more is these like crazy gadgets and just like nonsense where like it is so hard to follow along. And it's like, I've said I want a campier Bond, but I don't think that campy is the way to go. I think that there is that balance. I think that going back to Dr. No and really looking at what Dr. No did that worked, which is not inflating people with a crazy pen, because that's where you're literally handing fodder over to Mike Myers and being like, yeah, like this will be really easy for you to parody because this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it just doesn't feel scary. Nothing about it feels like an actual threat. I mean, they even
the
give one of
Austin
the guys a
Powers
metal
sharks
hand.
with freaking laser beams is not that far divorced from just
They just added laser beams.
the sharks in a pool that are there for, like you said, I don't know why, except to be something that is used as a weapon. It defies logic in a way that Dr. No stays grounded even when at its most spectacular.
Yeah. Well, and because Moore's Bond and Moore's villain rely so much more on gadgets and nonsense to create fear, to create violence. So like we talked about, Dr. No is exercising so much of his will over this island.
Yeah.
And with other than making people occasionally disappear and having something that looks like a dragon, he's not doing much else to make sure that he has this entire space in control. Versus Mr. Big is like having to run dual identities. He has to set up all of these statues with cameras and darts, and it's just like there's so much built about it that it loses the psychological edge because it just feels like a mousetrap that you've gotten yourself kind of stuck into and you have to just get out of. But it doesn't feel like it was built by a particularly smart man or a particularly threatening man.
And that's why the threat of violence is so much scarier than the violence itself.
Exactly.
And
because Live and Let Die is a more violent movie.
It is, but it's not. It lacks the edge that creates tension.
Mm-hmm.
And in Dr. No, scenes like the disembodied voice, the plan that's not spelled out, the island that has a nuclear reactor that we know is unstable and dangerous, but only under the right circumstances. It's so much scarier.
Yep.
And therefore more effective.
Agreed. Well, let's go to the titular character then, shall we?
Yes.
Dr. No.
Tell me, does the toppling of American missiles really compensate for having no hands?
Missiles are only the first step to prove our power.
Our power? With your disregard for human life, you must be working for the East.
East, west, just points of the compass, each as stupid as the other. I'm a member of Spectre.
Spectre?
Spectre. Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, Extortion. The four great cornerstones of power, headed by the greatest brains in the world.
Correction. Criminal brains.
The successful criminal brain is always superior. It has to be.
Why become criminal? I'm sure the West would welcome a scientist of your caliber.
The Americans are fools. I offered my services, they refused. So did the East. Now they can both pay for their mistake.
World domination. Same old dream.
Joseph Wiseman is so restrained in this role.
Mm-hmm.
For a guy of questionable origins with metal hands, he's kind of underplaying it in a way that I really enjoy. I also love the way Bond is playing with him in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, for a scientist of your caliber.
Yeah.
Yeah. That nice pause in there. And this is what makes Connery such a great Bond, is that he can still like tongue in cheek it in this moment where like he is at a disadvantage. He's still fucking with him. But yeah, Wiseman is such a great, again, first Bond villain. We get so little of him, and that's exactly how much you need to make him feel scary, to make him feel threatening. Like, he kills these scenes without chewing the scenery.
He's the shark in Jaws, right? If we see more shark, he actually becomes less of a threat.
Yeah, that's a really, I like that analogy a lot, in fact. He very much is. You get so little of him, and the most of the moments you get of him isn't him angry, isn't him shouting. It's him actually quietly speaking, plotting, like showing disappointment that Bond wasn't more than what he had hoped he might be. Like, there's just so much about this type of villain that like we love this type of villain in outside of Bond movies. These are the types that we really enjoy. I think of Christoph Waltz and his various villainous characters. Like,
that is such a good comparison.
He does the underplayed charming guy.
I am so much more frightened by Hans Landa than I am the Joker, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think when we're talking about these two movies, that's what we have. We have Dr. No, who is charming and mysterious and smart, and in another world would be celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Live and Let Die, you have Kanaga and Mr. Big, same person, but the two personalities that are just big and flamboyant and showy, and so much of their presence is because they're putting out a presence, whereas, like you've said multiple times here, Dr. No just exists in the world, and the fact that he exists is where the threat comes from.
Yeah, the fact that Kanaga and Big have to split into two, and they split into two for the purpose of distribution and production. There's a weird like capitalistic bent to it. In order to have the right personas for each, makes him less threatening. It dilutes his threat. It's funny, speaking of Christoph Waltz, I mean, he does end up playing a Bond villain, obviously, later in the Bond movies. But, and it is because this is such a great sort of archetype for a villain. But I love Wiseman in this role. I love that they don't, so funny to say, but like for a guy with metal hands, they don't overplay the metal hands.
No, they end up being a little bit of a foil later on. They're part of his origin story.
Yeah.
But the metal hands, for whatever reason, feel more grounded in reality in Dr. No than James Bond's like watch does in Live and Let Die.
It feels like the fact that he has metal hands is less about him as a physical threat, because you have the metal claw in Live and Let Die that is like all about like attacking and coming down and harming, whereas the metal hands are like, they exist. He crushes some metal statue to let Bond know, yes, I have metal hands. But they're more upsetting in that he was willing to take a scientific experiment so far that he lost his hands. That feels like the scary, threatening part about this villain.
Right.
That's what makes him
he is so
crazy,
driven
committed
for his evil, right?
Yeah.
That he's willing to sacrifice that much of himself.
Exactly.
It tells you something about the character. Whereas, the claw in Live and Let Die feels more just like, oh, this is a Bond movie and it needs villains with quirks.
Exactly. Whereas this is a character who's not just willing to go so far into his plotting that he's going to give up, his ability to manipulate the world, which is an important thing to have as a scientist. But then that doesn't stop him. He will build himself a pair of hands so that he can go back to manipulating the world, even if he can't feel anything now. Now everything, and that's, again, it pulls his empathy. We reach out and interact with the world. We touch and we feel texture, and now he doesn't have that, which makes everything so black and white to this character. It becomes a great metaphor for who he is as a character. Whereas the claw is like, he's got a claw, he's coming after you. That claw is sharp. Look out. this is like a damaged person, this Dr.
Yeah.
No, a brilliant damaged person. And we don't know why the East and the West both turned him down. What did he do? And we'll never know. And that's what's great about him.
Yeah. Yeah, he really is a perfect villain for those exact reasons. That there's the air of mystery, there's the implicit threat, there's the strength that's also a weakness, right? It all just plays so well. And then because Wiseman is so understated in the way that he delivers it, it is scarier.
Well, he plays the metal hands as though his entire body is made of metal.
Mm-hmm.
He's so stiff. His chin is up. He speaks in this very almost robotic way, and every word is so well thought out. And it's such a great juxtaposition to Bond's sort of sweaty sexuality and like improvisation. Like nothing is doing is improvised. Everything's very planned.
There's the
plotted.
aquarium with the curved glass that makes the fish inside of it look bigger.
Yes.
And Bond makes the it's minnows pretending to be something bigger, right?
Yeah.
And then Dr. No's response is, well, it really depends on what side of the glass you're on. And again, it's just such a good metaphor for who he is as a character, how he approaches the world, and how he thinks he's going to dominate.
Well, and that's the thing. He's created that glass, so everyone's looking at that island, and he looks like a monster fish. But he is a minnow. It's just that somebody has to face up against it, and only Bond has the courage and the intelligence to be able to do it. This movie, I think this is a great place to like sort of wrap this up.
Yeah.
This is why Dr. No belongs on the Essential Cut watch list.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I think we both want to see Denis Villeneuve, even if it's not like a remake, but go to this sort of tone.
Yeah, and I think Villeneuve is the right person, right? Like I think
this
of
tone.
Prisoners, right? We talked about Bond being our hero, but not a good guy, right? I think Villeneuve can do that. I think he can bring us a Bond with those layers. He can bring us a villain that is terrifying, but has elements of sympathy to it. And
you have to understand how the villain got to where he got.
Right.
I think that is such an important part because villains don't wake up in the morning twirling their mustaches saying, I'm going to destroy the world. Like something happens over the course of time that produces a great villain.
You get the baby Hitler problem, right? And
it can be told through the story of a pair of hands. It can be told through how they carry themselves. But like you have to be able to tell that story. I don't even know why Mr. Big or like why he's doing what he's doing.
He's a glorified drug dealer.
Yeah, he just wants to make money. And also like racism, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about how Live and Let Die is also like a blaxploitation movie.
Which
in a weird way.
Yeah.
A very weird way.
In a very weird way. I there was such an interesting pivot to be like, hey, we're going to make this British spy movie, also a blaxploitation movie, also with Jane Seymour, who is later Dr. Quinn. Like that the movie is the weirdest mashup I've ever.
It's bizarre. But yeah, this belongs on the Essential Cut list because James Bond is so iconic, so out there. There's 20-something movies. This was the first one, and it laid all of the groundwork for the best elements of everything that came after.
I was going to say, it laid the groundwork for the best versions of Bond that we saw. Every time it ventured too far from Dr. No, I think is when Bond got lost. And every time it went back to this type of route about Spectre, about a villain that is grounded, that is understated, that has that presence, that's when you get your best Bond movies. This is the Rosetta Stone of Bond.
I was also pissed off that in Dr. No, James Bond drinks his martini shaken and not stirred. And in Live and Let Die, he drinks whiskey and water. What the fuck?
That was really peculiar that they went to whiskey. I agree. And maybe this is just us not being like full on Bond nerds. I know I've seen a lot more Bond than you have, but I was like, what is going on with the whiskey?
Yeah. And so, yeah.
When did they change that up? Because like the Aston Martin and the martini and the music and the Bond, like this is what's incredible is that they just nailed all of these things in the very first movie. And these are the things that work.
It's such a good prototype.
It's incredible. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible. All right, man. Well, I guess, does that wrap up our conversation on Dr. No and Bond?
It does. It is, we're adding a movie to the Essential Cut watch list.
We are indeed.
There really was no contest here. And I'm excited for it. I do think that this movie is essential to understanding the cinema landscape.
I agree. So it is official. Dr. No will be on the Essential Cut watch list. Live and Let Die will be cut. It was pre-cut before the episode. So sometimes this may happen coming up because we love watching movies we haven't seen before. We love to be surprised and meet things unexpected. And occasionally we will come upon a movie that just doesn't cut the mustard. And so...
Or one that just wins so decidedly.
Where basically there's no debate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know which one goes on there. So Dr. No's on the watch list. But as always, drop it in the comments. If you are a big Moore head and you think Roger Moore is the quintessential Bond and that Live and Let Die was the beginning of an incredible era of Bond, tell us why. I'm curious. I didn't hate Live and Let Die. I think parts of it really worked. I think the pacing was really bizarre. And I honestly just struggled with Moore as being a sex symbol that I really think Bond needed to be. And a lot of that actually took me out of it. But there were some fun parts about it. So, but again, if you're a big Moore guy, by all means, let me know. Alan Partridge, if you're out there, tell us. So what are we doing next time on The Essential Cut, Michael?
I'm really excited for the next one. The next one is Law and Disorder.
This was your idea. You wanted to do this episode.
I really like... This is one where we are not going to go in having predetermined which one's making the watch list.
Okay.
But we have Liar Liar and My Cousin Vinny, two really great legal comedies. And I think they will be a lot of fun to talk about.
I'm excited to talk about them. They are both really funny movies. I'm glad we're doing more comedies. We talked about how we wanted to do comedy. Comedies often do not make watch lists. And
they should. Everyone says that comedy is harder to do than drama, and then they forget that when doing things like creating essential watch lists.
One of my favorite movies of this year, Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, is one of the funniest comedies I've ever seen. And so comedies should be all over the best watch lists. And that is our goal, is to get lots of comedies on here, get lots of musicals on here.
Just genre films in general.
Yeah, like it should be representative of the cinema landscape.
Yes.
So yeah,
not everything is Merchant Ivory.
Well, actually, I think maybe we will actually have to do one because right now we have nothing that's Merchant Ivory. So maybe we'll do a Howard Zand. I don't know.
Let's do it.
I like Howard Zand. It's a good movie. It's a good book too.
All right.
All right, take it out, dude.
Well, until next time.
Don't look at me. Look at the camera.
I am looking at the camera. The camera is there.
The camera is there.
Until next time, make sure and subscribe, rate, review. Let us know who your favorite Bond is and why. Continue to tell us what we missed when it came to back rooms. I'm very interested to hear about that. Follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Threads, Letterboxd. I am at Michael_upleft at those places. And Ian, where are you?
I am at Ian_upleft, also at those places. I did fail to mention in our last episode, I did see Masters of the Universe. If it tells you where it got rated by forgetting that I saw it, it probably falls somewhere between the skip it and the see it.
Maybe if you have nothing better to do.
Yeah, if you've got nothing better to do, maybe watch it. Wasn't one of my favorites, but I do have my reviews up there about those movies. And so, yeah, check us out on those places. But more importantly, just watch this on YouTube. If you don't do any of that, just do this.
Yes.
Do this. Yeah. So that's it.
That is it.
Bye for now. The Essential Cut is an Uplift Media production. Written, researched, and hosted by Ian Tarter and Michael Smith. Produced, sound engineered, and edited by Ian Tarter. With special thanks to Rosie Page.